Welcome to day one. Today we're going to be covering Genesis chapters 1, 2, and 3, Genesis being the first book of the Bible. Chapter 1, the history of creation. Verse 1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. Then he goes on to create everything in creation for 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female. He created them. Chapter 2, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. Life in God's garden. In verse 15, then the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it. Verse 17, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for you eat, in the day you eat of it, you shall surely die. This is God talking to Adam. Continues in verse 18, and the Lord God said, it is not good that man should be alone. I will make a helper comparable to him, and this is when he created Eve. Chapter 3, the temptation and fall of man. Verse 1, now the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, has God indeed said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden? So Adam and Eve fell into sin because they were deceived by the serpent. Now God, in verse 14 of chapter 2, talks to the serpent. He says, because you have done this, you are cursed more than all cattle. Verse 15, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. This is in reference to Jesus. This is the first gospel, first proto-evangelism. Verse 22, then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. And now lest he put out his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever. So what they did in verse 24 of chapter 3, so he drove out the man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden, and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. My takeaway, a lot of takeaways, but the one that I'm going to be sharing here is the Bible is our way to know who God is, God who created everything, and he's knowable through the Bible. And I'm thankful that we have this resource, because if the Bible did not exist, it wouldn't really change the fact that God exists. But because he's loving and he wants us to know him regardless of when we are living in times, I'm very thankful that we have the Bible. And in other words, we're going to be ignorant of who he is if we don't know the scriptures. Other takeaway is that when God spoke, let there be light, I believe he is the one who exercised or showed what faith looks like. It was dark, there was nothing at that time, but instead of God saying, oh, it's so dark, instead of giving in to external circumstances, instead he spoke from the outflow of his heart, and that reflects his power, his strength, and he spoke things into existence. Since God himself is the model of faith, in Hebrews 12, it says that fix your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of faith. I believe that by reading the Bible, we get to know more who God is, and we'll fall in love in his character, and we become more like him. So that's my takeaway for today. Thank you so much. Have a good day.